We pressed into the far corner of my room, backs against the cold wall, breaths shallow and uneven. Liam's hand stayed locked around mine, tight, too tight, but I didn't tell him to loosen it. I needed the contact as much as he did. The footsteps downstairs grew louder, then paused. Liam's eyes snapped to mine. "Don't move," he mouthed. As if I could. The building seemed to vibrate with every creak of the staircase, every shifting shadow under the door. My heart was beating so hard I thought it might echo off the walls, but then, the footsteps retreated, not closer, not toward us, back down the stairs, slow, measured, like whoever it was had simply wanted us to know they were there, and nothing more. Then the main dorm door slammed shut. Silence. We stayed frozen for almost a full minute, waiting for another sound. Another footstep. Another breath that wasn't ours. Nothing. Finally, Liam let out a shaky exhale and slid down the wall until he was sitting on the floor. His hand slipped from mine, and for some reason that hurt more than it should have. I sat beside him, close, but not touching. The adrenaline crash hit us both at once. Liam leaned his head back against the wall, staring at the ceiling. "Jesus," he whispered. "Yeah." I breathed. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The room felt different now. The danger was gone, or at least farther away, but the tension between us, that was still here, stronger, heavier, and now we didn't have an excuse to avoid it. Liam rubbed his face with both hands. "I'm sorry," he muttered. "For what?" I asked quietly. "For all of it. Coming here. Saying too much. Scaring you. Dragging you into." He stopped himself, jaw clenching. "Whatever this is." His voice cracked on the last word. I should have said something reassuring, something that didn't make everything worse, but all I managed was, "You didn't drag me into anything." He turned his head slightly, eyes finding mine. "Didn't I?" The question lingered between us, heavy and loaded. "I meant what I said," he whispered. "About you. About how I feel around you." My heart skipped painfully. He looked down, fingers twisting together, nervous, uncertain, completely unlike the fearless version of him everyone else saw. "But tonight, I don't know what's real and what's adrenaline," he admitted. "I don't know if I almost," he stopped, swallowing hard, "if I almost did something because I meant it, or because I was scared." That hit like a punch. "So I shouldn't answer you?" I asked softly. He shook his head. "No. I want you to answer me." A beat, "But not right now. Not like this." Silence stretched again, this time, aching. I finally asked, "Then what do we do?" He didn't look at me. "I need time," he whispered. "Just a little. Time, distance, breathing room, all things I didn't want, but maybe he needed." He stood slowly, grabbing his hoodie, avoiding my eyes just enough for it to hurt. "I'll text you tomorrow," he said, though it sounded more like a hope than a promise. He reached for the door, hesitated, then looked back at me, one last glance filled with everything we didn't say. Then he opened it. The hallway was empty, silent, harmless, but before he stepped out, he turned again, voice low and trembling. "And if that person comes back tonight, don't open the door. No matter what it sounds like." The door clicked shut behind him, leaving me alone, with fear, with questions, with the ghost of the moment we almost crossed, and the horrible, thrilling thought I couldn't shake. What if the next knock isn't him, but whoever was searching for him? If you want, I can now compile the full story, generate thumbnails, create visual prompts for each section, or help you write part 2. The silence outside my door stretched on for too long. Long enough for me to start questioning whether I had heard anything at all. Maybe it was just the old building settling. Maybe the AC finally gave up again. Maybe I was letting my thoughts about Liam, his sudden disappearance, the weird tone in his last message, mess with me. I stepped back from the door, then another sound, and not a click this time. A soft, muffled breath, like someone exhaling right outside my room. I felt it deep in my ribs, that instinctive tightening, that uncomfortable mix of fear and something else. Anticipation? Hope? Guilt for hoping. I swallowed hard. "Who's there?" I said, barely above a whisper. "No answer." For a moment I considered grabbing something, my water bottle, my laptop, hell, even my shoe, as a weapon. But then the doorknob rattled gently, like someone testing it. Not forcefully. Almost nervously, and then, nothing, just silence. A heavier silence than before. I sat back on my bed, my pulse throbbing in my throat. Part of me wanted to fling open the door. Another part wanted to crawl under my blankets and pretend I was asleep. And a small, reckless part whispered Liam's name into the hollow inside my chest. He said he'd be gone. He said he'd be off-grid. But that was exactly why it made too much sense for it to be him. Liam loved doing the opposite of what he'd said he'd do. He loved walking in unannounced, tugging at my wrist, teasing me about missing him. But tonight felt different, off wrong, and that made me think of him even more. I tried to distract myself by pulling my laptop onto my lap and opening my class notes, but I couldn't read a single sentence. My eyes kept drifting back to the door. My ears kept straining for any sound. Minutes passed, nothing. Finally, I forced myself to breathe, get it together. I tried to ground myself in the familiar things around me, the hum of the AC, the faint smell of detergent from my laundry bag, the orange glow from the street lamp outside my window. The normal, boring details that usually kept me sane. It almost worked. Then my phone buzzed. One text message from Liam. I felt my stomach drop. Liam, are you alone? That was it.no explanation.no context, just that one question, slicing through the quiet. My thumbs hovered over the screen. I typed, yeah, why, then deleted it, typed again, thought you were out, deleted, typed, is everything okay? Deleted. I didn't know whether I was supposed to be worried or excited. Finally, I replied, yeah. I'm alone. As soon as I hit send, the air felt heavier. I waited, nothing. 5 minutes. 10. Still nothing. Just as I started convincing myself that the noise outside my door had nothing to do with him, I heard footsteps, fast, urgent, moving down the hallway. They stopped in front of my room. My heartbeat went wild. Then, a single knock, sharp, quiet, intentional, not a stranger's knock, not a roommate's. Liam's. I knew it instantly. I'd know it in my sleep. I opened the door without thinking, and there he was. Liam stood in the dim hallway, hoodie unzipped, breathing hard as if he'd been running or arguing or both. His hair was messy. His eyes were red around the edges, but not from crying, more like from adrenaline. He glanced down the hall before slipping inside my room and closing the door behind him. Then he locked it. What the hell? I started, but he moved past me, running a hand through his hair like he was trying to hold himself together. I didn't think you'd answer, he said, voice low. Why wouldn't I? He laughed once, short, humorless. You shouldn't. His tone was wrong. It wasn't playful. It wasn't teasing. It wasn't. Liam, are you okay? I asked carefully. He didn't answer. He just stepped closer, too close, close enough for me to feel the warmth coming off him. Close enough to smell the faint, familiar scent of mint gum and something like cedar from his cologne. The same scent that always messed with my head. I needed to see you, he murmured. The words hit harder than they should have. And why did you knock like you were? I don't know, hiding? I asked. He hesitated. His jaw tensed. His eyes flicked to the door, then back to me. I wasn't hiding, he said. A beat and not from you. He said it softly. Too softly. My throat dried. What's going on, Liam? But instead of answering, he stepped even closer, invading every inch of space I had left. I backed up until my legs hit the edge of my bed. His gaze locked onto mine, heavy and unreadable. You didn't tell anyone I was coming, right? He asked quietly. No. You're sure? Yes. He nodded once as if that mattered more than anything. He was acting strange, stranger than I'd ever seen him. And Liam had been drunk around me. High around me. Heartbroken around me. Angry around me. But this was different. You're freaking me out, I whispered. Good, he said. Good. The tension thickened. The temperature in the room felt like it rose all at once, or maybe that was just my blood rushing too fast. I didn't know whether to push him away or pull him closer. Then he sat beside me on the bed, the mattress dipped, his shoulder brushing mine. A spark shot straight up my spine. I pretended not to feel it. I'm pretty sure he pretended too. You're shaking, he said softly, eyes flicking down to my hands. No, I'm not. You are. His fingers brushed mine, barely, accidentally, or maybe not accidentally at all. I didn't pull away. I couldn't. Liam, what happened? I pushed again. He stared straight ahead, breathing slow and deep, like he was trying to keep something inside from slipping out. I shouldn't be here, he finally said. Then why are you here? He swallowed, paused, because I didn't want to be alone. My chest tightened. You could have gone to literally anyone else. He turned toward me fully, his knee touching mine. You know that's not true. Silence fell again, thicker than before. A familiar tension settled between us, the one that had been building for months. The one neither of us named. The one that made everything feel dangerous and electric at the same time. His gaze dropped to my mouth, then back to my eyes, then down again. My breath hitched. Liam, I whispered, and then, I kid you not, the power flickered. The lights dimmed, buzzing faintly before stabilizing again. Both of us jolted, looking up. What was that? I asked, grateful for the distraction. Maybe too grateful. Liam didn't seem scared, just annoyed. Electrical issue. They said something about it in the group chat, he muttered. I hadn't seen it, but that wasn't what mattered. What mattered was the way his hand was now resting on my thigh, or barely touching, but definitely there. And he wasn't moving it. And I wasn't stopping him. My heart thudded so loudly I was terrified he could hear it. He leaned in closer, voice dropping to a whisper near my ear. Do you want me to leave? I didn't answer. He didn't move, neither did I. The air between us grew dense with everything unspoken: desire, guilt, fear, curiosity, the kind of tension you only feel once in your life and never forget afterward. Then a sudden loud bang echoed from the hallway, something hitting a door, or someone. We both froze. Liam turned his head slowly toward my door, his hand tightened on my thigh. That's why I came here, he whispered. What do you mean? He stood abruptly, pacing, running both hands through his hair like he was fighting something inside himself. Liam, what the hell happened tonight? He stopped, turned, looked at me with eyes I'd never seen on him before, something raw, scared, stubborn, reckless. I'll tell you, he said, voice low, tense, but you're not going to believe me. I swallowed hard. Try me. He stepped toward me again, slower this time, his expression shifting into something unreadable, and then he said, I didn't just come here to see you. I came here because someone followed me. If you'd like, I can continue immediately with the climactic moment, 800 to 1,200 words, next. My first instinct was disbelief, but the look in Liam's eyes, wide, sharp, and strangely vulnerable, killed any attempt at skepticism. I stood slowly from the bed. Followed you. By who? He shook his head. I don't know. I didn't see their face. But I heard them. Steps behind me. The whole walk back. My skin prickled. The hallway outside was silent again, but it felt like the wrong kind of silence, forced, intentional, like something was holding its breath. I moved closer to him. What did you do? I whispered. Nothing, he snapped, defensive, pacing again. I didn't do anything, all right? I left the party early and someone was behind me. Every corner I turned, they turned. Every time I slowed down, they slowed down too. He raked both hands through his hair, gripping it. I didn't know where else to go. I could feel my pulse quickening. My room.My locked door. His panic. Liam, I said gently, you should have called campus security. He laughed, a hollow, shaking sound. And tell them what? Hey, someone walked behind me? They'd laugh me right off the call. He wasn't wrong. I thought maybe it was in my head, he said. But then they stopped right at the dorm entrance. He swallowed hard and they didn't come in. Not right away. Like they were waiting. I felt the room tilt slightly, the knock, the breath outside my door, the shadow all at once. They made horrible sense. You think it was them outside my room? I said quietly. He didn't answer. His silence said everything. A tremor of fear worked its way into my bones, but alongside it, something else. Something I'd been pushing down for months, the awareness of Liam's closeness, his vulnerability, the fact that he chose me when he was scared. He could have gone to anyone, but he came here and that meant something dangerous. Stop it, I told myself. This isn't the time, but the way he looked at me, eyes searching mine as if I was the only thing tethering him to the ground, made everything 1,000 times harder. He stepped closer, his voice lowering. I didn't want to be alone out there. His throat bobbed, and I didn't want to be alone in here, either. My stomach tightened. I didn't know what to say. He sighed and sat back down on the bed, elbows on his knees, head in his hands. For a moment he looked small, like all the bravado he wielded so effortlessly had finally cracked. I sat next to him, careful but close. Hey, I whispered, talk to me. He lifted his head. His eyes were glossy, not tears, but intensity. Why you? He asked suddenly. His voice was raw. Why is it always you? My breath caught. What do you mean? He exhaled shakily, sitting up straighter. Whenever I'm in a mess, whenever I'm scared, whenever I don't know what the hell I'm doing with my life, I come to you. That's what best friends do, I said, but my voice wasn't steady. He stared at me, unblinking. No. That's not what this is. My chest constricted. He turned his whole body toward me, knee pressing against mine. The contact sent heat rushing through me, embarrassingly fast. I shouldn't be here, he said again, voice quieter, but when I was at that party, all I kept thinking about was you. I swallowed hard. And when I thought someone was following me? When my heart was pounding out of my chest. He leaned in, eyes flicking to my mouth again. There was only one person I wanted to be near. My breath stuttered. Liam, I didn't know if it was a warning or a plea. He took a slow breath. I need to ask you something. And I need you to be honest. Okay. He reached out, not fully, but enough that his fingers brushed mine. I felt it everywhere. Do you? He hesitated. His voice cracked. Feel something too? The room seemed to shrink. My lungs tightened. I inhaled sharply, but the air felt thick. I didn't know what to say. I did, but I didn't want to. Or maybe I wanted to too much. He watched me, desperation flickering in his eyes. Please. Don't lie. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. He exhaled shakily, realizing my silence wasn't a denial but something more complicated. His voice softened, terrifyingly soft. I think you do. My pulse hammered. He moved closer, so slow it felt intentional, painfully intentional. Tell me I'm wrong. He breathed. I couldn't. That was the problem. This isn't the right moment, I whispered. No. It's the moment that made everything clear, he said, voice thick. I walk into your room and, God, you don't even know what you look like when you're scared for me. My face heated. He kept going. I'm not imagining this. I know I'm not. Liam, unless I am, he whispered, leaning in, breath warm against my cheek, and I'm about to ruin everything. My heart nearly stopped. His hand lifted, hesitated, then brushed my jaw barely, but enough to send shockwaves through me. Tell me to stop, he whispered. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. Then, a loud crash thundered through the hallway, violent, heavy. We both jolted. Someone, had slammed into one of the dorm doors. Liam's hand fell away. He sprang to his feet. My pulse spiked with cold adrenaline. Another slam. Closer, then, the unmistakable sound of slow footsteps, deliberate, approaching our door. Liam pressed himself against the wall beside me, chest rising and falling, panic etched into every line of his body. He whispered, barely audible, that's them. My throat tightened. What do we do? The footsteps stopped right outside my door. Silence, then a gentle, deliberate scratch dragged across the wood. Once, twice. Liam grabbed my wrist, holding it tight. The doorknob turned just a fraction, testing. Liam's grip tightened desperately. His voice trembled as he whispered, whatever happens, don't open that door. If you want, I can continue with falling action, 600 to 800 words, or go straight into the conclusion, cliffhanger, 400 to 600 words, next. I always thought our house sounded safest in the morning, soft, predictable, almost tender, the hum of the old refrigerator, the faint rattle of the vents turning on, the muted glow of sunlight trying its best to slip past beige curtains we kept meaning to replace. Everything felt familiar, gentle, routine, but that morning, something was wrong. The moment I opened my eyes, the air was still, too still, like a held breath. I reached toward the other side of the bed out of habit, expecting warmth. But the sheets were cold. Not cool. Cold. As if Daniel hadn't slept there at all. A quiet ache bloomed in my chest. He never skips a good night. He never leaves without a goodbye. I sat up, running a hand through my hair, listening for him. Sometimes he hummed while getting ready. Sometimes he knocked over something in the bathroom and cursed in that soft, embarrassed way of his, but the house made no sound. A pit formed in my stomach. I pushed myself out of bed, feet sinking into the worn carpet, and walked toward the living room. Morning light spilled across the wooden floor, revealing dust motes floating lazily in the air. Everything looked normal. Perfectly normal, which somehow made it feel worse. Daniel's mug sat on the kitchen counter. The rim was stained with dried coffee. A small detail, comforting, familiar, but it didn't match the cold side of the bed. Why would he make coffee and leave without drinking it? I picked it up, turning it in my hands. It was still slightly warm. Maybe he'd only stepped out. Maybe he forgot something in the car. Maybe. Then I noticed the back door unlocked. A slow, deliberate chill crept across my spine. Daniel was careful, almost obsessively so. He checked locks twice, sometimes 3 times, especially at night. Leaving the back door open was not something he did. Ever.My heartbeat quickened as I stepped closer. The metal doorknob was cool under my fingertips. A draft slipped through the narrow gap between the door and its frame, brushing against my arm like a warning. Why would he go outside this early? Why wouldn't he lock the door? I pushed it shut gently, listening to the click echo through the quiet house. That's when I saw it. A small piece of dark fabric near the hallway. Crumpled. Half hidden by the corner of the rug. I bent down and picked it up. The material was soft, silky, unfamiliar. It definitely wasn't mine, and it definitely wasn't Daniel's. A strange scent clung to it, a faint, cool cologne I didn't recognize. My throat tightened. Where had this come from? Who had this belonged to? Why was it here, in our hallway, tucked into the morning like a forgotten secret? I stared at the empty rooms around me, suddenly aware of how quiet the house really was. Too quiet. A low creak echoed from somewhere deeper inside. A shifting weight. A whisper of movement. I froze. Daniel. I called out, my voice unsteady. Are you home? Silence. The fabric slipped from my hand, and just for a heartbeat, barely a flicker, I wondered if the morning routine I trusted so much had shattered long before I even noticed the cracks forming. I always thought mornings in our house were predictable, almost painfully so. The same soft hum of the old refrigerator. The same pale light leaking through the sheer curtains. The same quiet groan from the wooden floorboards as I dragged myself into the kitchen, half asleep, half functioning. But that morning, something felt off before I even opened my eyes. I remember lying there, listening. The silence was too complete, too delicate, like the air itself was waiting for something to happen. Usually, I'd hear Daniel moving around by now, pacing, humming, sometimes arguing with himself over which shirt to wear. He hated being late for work. He hated rushing even more, but that morning, nothing. The absence echoed louder than any sound could have. I pushed myself up, rubbing my eyes. The bed beside me was cold. Not just empty, cold. As if he had been gone for hours. A strange ache bloomed in my chest, a soft twisting that I tried to ignore. Daniel was a grown man, not a child who needed constant monitoring. People left early sometimes. People had errands. People existed beyond the tight little world of our shared routines, and yet, he never left without saying goodbye. When I walked into the kitchen, I noticed his mug on the counter, still unwashed, still holding the faint scent of cinnamon and coffee. But his keys were gone. His jacket too. It was as if he'd slipped out of the house in the dark without wanting anyone to notice. That wasn't like him, not at all. I tried to shake it off, tried to tell myself I was overthinking again. I poured myself a glass of water, letting the coolness ground me. Outside, the sky was a dull grey, thick clouds swelling like they were hiding secrets of their own. The air smelled like rain, the kind that arrived suddenly and without apology. That's when I saw it. A small scrap of fabric on the floor near the hallway, dark, silky, unfamiliar. At first I thought it was part of Daniel's tie collection, the ones he rarely touched but kept just in case. But when I picked it up, the fabric was softer than any tie he owned. More delicate. More intimate, and it definitely didn't belong to either of us. My chest tightened. I heard my own heartbeat in my ears. Why was something like this in our house, and why did it smell faintly, barely, of cologne I didn't recognize? I swallowed hard, forcing myself to breathe. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it belonged to a friend who had visited. Maybe it fell from a shopping bag. Maybe I was letting my imagination run wild again, maybe. But as I stood there in that half-lit hallway, holding a stranger's garment between my fingers, I couldn't ignore the feeling crawling up my spine, the sense that something had shifted overnight, quietly but unmistakably, something Daniel didn't want to tell me, something I wasn't supposed to find. And then, from the back of the house, I heard a soft thud. A door closing. Or opening. I couldn't tell. I froze. Was I still alone? For a moment I thought the world had stopped breathing with it. Every sound, every thought, every heartbeat compressed into a tight, pulsing silence. Liam's grip on my wrist was iron tight. He wasn't even looking at the door anymore, he was watching me. His eyes were wild, terrified, but underneath the fear was something else. Something unspoken. Something he'd almost admitted moments before the hallway erupted. His chest rose and fell quickly, brushing mine with each breath. "We can't make a sound," he mouthed. I nodded. Barely. The footsteps outside shifted again, one slow step backward, then another. Like whoever it was had changed their mind or was waiting for something else. A signal. A mistake. A movement from inside. A soft creak echoed through the hallway, then silence. A thick, heavy silence. Liam didn't let my wrist go. If anything, he held tighter, his pulse drumming fast against my skin. I didn't pull away. I wasn't sure I could. My legs felt rooted to the floor, my breath caught somewhere between my ribs. He leaned in slightly. "Are they gone?" he whispered against my ear. A shiver shot down my spine at the closeness. I could feel his breath, warm, uneven, ghost across my skin. I don't know, I whispered back. We stood there for what felt like an eternity, listening, the hum of the AC, the distant ringing of someone's phone in another dorm, the faint thump of my heartbeat. But no footsteps. Finally Liam exhaled shakily, letting his forehead fall against my shoulder. Not aggressively, not desperately, just tired. Like everything he'd been holding inside all night finally collapsed under its own weight. I froze, then, slowly, carefully, I lifted my hand to the back of his neck. His skin was warm beneath my fingers. Too warm. He didn't pull away. He sank into the touch, breath catching. "This is insane," he murmured against my shirt. "Everything tonight. All of it." "Yeah," I whispered. He lifted his head slightly, eyes meeting mine from inches away. The room was dim, but even in the low light I could see every emotion crossing his face: fear, confusion, longing. Something deeper weaving through all of them. His voice trembled. "I wasn't lying, you know. About what I said. Before all this." My chest tightened. "About wanting to be near me, about it always being me, about thinking I felt something too." "You don't have to say anything back," he added quickly. "I know the timing is messed up. And maybe I shouldn't have said." "Liam," I whispered, cutting him off. He blinked, waiting. I swallowed. "I didn't want you to stop." His breath hitched, a tiny, involuntary sound. Everything in me screamed to look away, to break the moment, to end it before it turned into something dangerous, irreversible, forbidden. But I didn't move, neither did he. His fingers slid down my wrist, tracing the inside of my arm, slow, hesitant. Like he was touching something he wasn't sure he was allowed to touch. Like he expected me to pull away at any second. I didn't. Outside the door, the hallway remained still. Inside the room, everything felt like it was vibrating. "Tell me you don't feel this," Liam whispered, almost pleading. My throat tightened. "I can't." His eyes flicked down to my mouth again, slow, lingering, full of questions he didn't dare ask out loud. His hand moved to my waist, fingers curling into the fabric of my shirt. Not pulling me closer, but holding me like he needed the anchor. "I shouldn't be doing this," he muttered, then stop. He didn't. He stepped closer instead. "I don't want to mess this up," he said quietly. "I don't want to ruin us." "You think you already did," I whispered. He nodded once. "I think I'm about to." His forehead touched mine, barely, just enough to feel the warmth. My breath caught. His did too. The distance between us was non-existent now. Everything smelled like him. Everything felt like him. The moment stretched, dangerous, fragile, trembling with possibility. Then, another sound, but this one wasn't outside. It came from inside the dorm building. A heavy door slamming downstairs. Liam pulled back slightly, tension snapping through him like a wire. "They came in." My pulse spiked. "Liam, we need to move," he whispered. "If they came into the building, they'll come upstairs next." The dread hit me all at once. This wasn't over. This wasn't safe. He grabbed my hand this time, not my wrist, not an accident, but a deliberate grip, and tugged me toward the corner of the room away from the door. "Stay close," he whispered. As if I could do anything else. But even as fear surged, even as footsteps echoed faintly from the stairwell, something else twisted inside me, the feel of his hand in mine, warm, certain, terrified. And still unwilling to let go. A question rose inside me, sharp and dangerous. What are we to each other now? after everything that almost happened, but the footsteps kept coming and the moment, the fragile, trembling almost between us, hung unfinished in the thick air, unresolved, unspoken and impossible to ignore. If you'd like, I can now write the final conclusion cliffhanger, 400 to 600 words, to finish the full dramatic arc.